I don't even know how to like really describe this, but it's kind of like you could get people if you wanted to like not want a healthy way of living just so that they could buy that thing that's not healthy for them.
Oh, absolutely.
And so like that in and of itself seems like unethical.
Well, then by that notion, advertising itself is unethical. Which, in a sense, I mean, it even invalidates
I would say
capitalistic theory. Because I mean, that's the whole thing is advertising. It's some are more accurate than others based on how good the product is. But all advertising's only goal is gets people to buy my product.
Right.
So the variable is the product, not the advertising.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like what Noam Chomsky says is so like I mean, it validates capitalistic theory to have advertising the way it exists, because per Adam Smith, a capitalist economy is informed consumers making rational choices.
Right, exactly.
And that's what makes the market function the way we say it does.
Yeah, and the fact
Yet
that
the whole point of advertising is to create uninformed consumers who will make irrational choices.
I wouldn't say the whole point, but I would say how it's being used for sure.
Yeah, I think the major point of our current advertising is to do that.
Yeah. Because like
although there are certain products that
they don't have to lie because it's a good product.
Exactly.
But all products are going to advertise, and unless most products are really good, most are lying.
Yeah, and it's crazy to think. It's crazy to think how much psychological manipulation goes into it, like scientific evidence of how to trick people.
It's like Coca-Cola opening a bottle of happiness.
God.
So
The
sugar water is this how you're gonna be happy?
Yeah, and think about like all the cigarettes, all their advertising shit they did.
Yeah.
But I think that those even can be accounted for if you literally if it was like a nutrition fact, if it was a nutrition fact kind of thing.
Yeah, well, that's what Chomsky says is like real advertising would be a list of information about the products, just purely objective without anything.
Yeah.
Here is the product we have for sale. Here are the statistical information regarding this product.
I just at least want
here is the consumer reviews,
which you should be able to do. Yeah, just be like, this is the computer for sale. Here's all the specs. Here's the price. Do you want to buy it?
It just takes more effort in this day and age to do that kind of shopping.
Well, and I mean, if all they're measured by is the profit motive, they have no incentive to be honest. They have an incentive to do whatever it takes to get you to buy it.
But Apple is one of the most successful companies because they're selling you a brand. They're not.
See, and that's another thing.
Another thing I really all of it.
Oh yeah,
You're
absolutely.
buying like a lifestyle.
But that's kind of one of the weird things about modern capitalism is this idea of like the merging of brand and identity. It's like they're selling you a lifestyle, not things you need anymore. It's like creating this caricature, and when one has been used up, they have to move on to the next one. And it's constantly creating this empty, this void that you have to fill, and it's really gross.
Race. Yeah.
The same thing is done with advertising for like beauty products.
Yeah, that's one of the worst ones. Just
making
make this
people feel like shit.
Yeah, make this perpetual insecurity, and then tell them they can only fill it by buying your product.
Yeah.
And so you've created this consumer base artificially that's making people's lives worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're running into a lot of interesting, I feel like this is sort of an overarching topic that we've been touching on a lot today. We're running into a lot of interesting areas where it seems like the answer would be some sort of government intervention, but the types of intervention that seem like they would be effective border on very authoritarian means.
Yeah, which I'm also really against.
Right. So it's a very interesting place to be where I feel like I'm very anti-big government. Like
Me
I would
too.
prefer smaller government as much as possible. But there's all these avenues or all these interesting areas like YouTube and Google being censored or like being allowed to censor things. And then, now we're talking about the advertising industry. Like maybe we should put more restrictions on what they can and can't say. But again, like we're getting a lot more medley, we're meddling in lots of things.
One thing that I would like to bring up to get that idea, though, like a little bit more, I guess, modern, rather than in that kind of way where it's like, I don't want an authoritarian government. Like, totally, I agree with that, but in that concept, it is very much that the government controls everything. Basically everything, an authoritarian. It's like they control basically everything, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what that implies is there's, like, a ratio of, like, where is your freedom and where are the things that you're giving up for that, gets to protect that
The
freedom.
social contract.
Yeah. Exactly. So, and then the thing that I would like to argue is that I think that our society is much more complex now than it was back in when we created America, or even like before, because it's like, I don't think that it has been elucidated very well how different our society is, both like culturally, like the ability, I guess, how different. The potential to be more complex now is so astronomically bigger than it was back in the day. We have more resources. We have the ability to create new chemicals, new dyes, new medicine, all of these new things, right?
Well, it's just we're connected more than ever.
Mm-hmm.
That too.
We're on a global market.
But it's not even. It's like we have to think on an intellectual level. Ideas have like evolved dramatically in a very short period of time.
That can spread.
Totally.
Yeah, the amount of knowledge.
So,
in the world.
I think that there needs to be a discussion about what it really means to have a big government. Because in, like, my mind, it's like a big government is like we're talking a ratio. It's like if the government owns 50%, more than 50%, now we have more government than freedom or whatever, and now it's a big government. And, like,
so
what is
big?
it?
That is an interesting discussion, because I know that one of the things I think about a lot is one of the kind of like the talking points of Republicans nowadays is the idea that the size of government is equivalent to the amount of money that flows through it, which I think is bullshit. I mean, if you're using government for single-payer healthcare, I don't think that gives the government more power over you.
Right.
And I try to think of things in terms of like, how much can the government inhibit your freedoms, your liberties?
Right.
You know, that to me is government power. And that's the size of government that I'm concerned about. You know, I'm not concerned about us utilizing government to provide free education and free healthcare, because I think that makes us more free, in my mind. What I'm concerned about is, you know, war power, you know, presidential power, you know, the ability to infringe on free speech, or police state, or spying, or all of these things. You know, the merging of corporate interests with politicians. You know, all those things. That's what concerns me. To me, that's government power, because it's power it can use against the people.
Right.
And I guess some people would say, you know, oh well, you know, if government's giving you health care, then, you know, they can then be in a position to fuck with it because they have a monopoly on that function.
Totally.
But I don't know. I don't buy that argument myself.
I think. I mean, do you guys?
I was gonna ask what Sean had to say about that.
Well, yeah, I think if you're taking more taxes from your paycheck to give to the government, and then they get to decide how
if they get
where
to
we're
decide.
stuck, where we have this empire that no one really wants, and we haven't voted on it.
No.
It's just a thing that we do that no one talks about.
Yeah, we don't even use the word.
Yeah. So unless like we can pay
World
taxes,
police, or you know,
I think the only way to do it is to like
indispensable nation.
so much taxes is going to healthcare, so it's actually like taken out from. Because then, like say we give like 40% of all the money we earn to the government, then the government has the power to spend it however they want. If they want to spend it on healthcare, on the empire, on education, on whatever.
Well, I mean, a lot of things can specify where the tax revenue goes. You know, so if you have Medicare for All, you say, okay, well, here's a tax that specifically goes to that for us to use that money to pay for medical services. You know.
And then big government can be almost anything. It's more just how it's structured.
Yeah.
If it's still big, but it's run by the people, run by a democracy, republic, then it's not necessarily a bad thing as long as you still have control over where the power and the money's spent.
Yeah.